The Grand Council of the Orion sector gathered inside a hall that seemed as wide as a city and bright as a rising sun. Tall pillars of crystal reached into the air, and between them floated silver panels showing the latest reports from the stars. Delegates from every great civilization had come, their faces tense and their voices low. Something had happened on the edge of the known galaxy, and it was not something they expected. The council was used to order. For thousands of years, they had guided young species with patience and slow teaching. New civilizations were given safe knowledge, step by step, until they reached the right level of progress. In this way, the balance of power was kept, and no world could suddenly rise too fast or fall into chaos. It had always worked. But this time, the system was breaking. The message that brought them together was simple yet shocking. Humans, a species that had joined the galactic stage less than 100 years ago, had built a ship. Not just any ship, but a ship that should not have been possible for them to create. The name of the vessel was Horizon, and the report said it carried systems far beyond what the humans were supposed to understand. The leader of the session, Elder Merrick of the Thal, struck his staff against the shining floor to call for silence. His voice carried across the chamber, steady but filled with concern. Delegates, we meet because of an event without precedent. The humans, who were expected to remain at level 3 technology for another 2 centuries, have presented a ship that touches level 6 design. This cannot be ignored. We must understand how they have done this. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Some delegates hissed in disbelief, others whispered warnings to their neighbors. A representative from the Solari raised her thin, silver hand. Elder Merrick, are the reports confirmed? Could it be false data, or a trick of human imagination? Merrick looked at her with grave eyes. The data is confirmed. 3 observation teams have seen the horizon with their own instruments. It has shielding of a type not found outside the oldest archives, and its drive bends the space around it without the need for crystal cores. These are not errors. These are facts. The hall filled with uneasy voices. The Kelton envoy, tall and scaled in green, spoke with a growl. This is dangerous. Humans are reckless by nature. If they have reached such power too quickly, they may disturb the balance of the sectors. We must act before they spread their influence. Others disagreed. The gentle Oran speaker, whose people were known for calm thought, raised her voice softly. Perhaps this is not danger but opportunity. The humans may hold knowledge that can benefit us all. Should we fear progress simply because it comes from a place we did not expect? The debate grew hotter. Some demanded restrictions. Some called for investigation. A few even whispered that humans should be kept under closer control before they advanced further. Meanwhile, at the far side of the chamber, a quiet observer named Lauren of the Vale studied the council with calm eyes. He had met humans once, during a trade negotiation, and he remembered their spirit. They had no fear of failure. They tried, failed, and tried again with endless determination. Perhaps that was the secret behind this mysterious ship. Elder Merrick struck his staff once more, and the voices fell silent. This is not a time for argument without action. I call for a motion. We shall send a team of observers to Earth and to the human fleet. They will study the ship named Horizon. They will report on its systems, its methods, and the truth of its creation. Only then can we decide what must be done. The motion was passed, though not without resistance. Some feared what the observers would find. Others feared the reaction of humans if they realized the entire galaxy was now watching them with suspicion. As the session ended, the leaders left the Great Hall with heavy thoughts. For the first time in centuries, the council felt the ground shift beneath them. A young species, unshaped by tradition and unbound by ancient rules, had created something that should have been impossible. In the distance, beyond the stars of the Orion sector, the human ship Horizon drifted silently through space, its engines glowing with new light. The crew aboard felt pride in what they had built, unaware that across the galaxy, the most powerful leaders were gathering in panic because of them. The observers sent by the Grand Council were chosen with care. They came from 5 different civilizations, each selected for their skill and sharpness. Their mission was simple in words but heavy in meaning: study the human ship Horizon and find out how such a young species had built it. The observers traveled across star systems in a sleek vessel marked with the silver crest of the Council. It was a sign of neutrality and authority, a promise that they came only to watch and not to interfere. When the human world of Earth came into view, the observers prepared themselves. The blue and green planet turned slowly below, surrounded by orbiting stations and small patrol craft. Compared to the grand fleets of older races, these stations looked humble, almost fragile. Yet the humans moved with quiet confidence, guiding ships and exchanging signals. The leader of the observer team was Saran of the Solari, known for sharp logic and calm tone. She spoke to her team as they prepared to make contact. Remember our purpose. We do not judge, we do not influence. We observe, record, and return with truth. The Council depends on our clarity. Her words carried weight, and the others nodded in agreement. The humans welcomed them with surprising ease. Instead of suspicion or fear, they greeted the observers with open hands and polite smiles. The human commander assigned to guide them was named Daniel, a man with steady eyes and a firm voice. He led them through stations and docks before finally bringing them to the horizon. The ship floated in orbit, its silver hull reflecting the light of the distant sun. At first glance, it looked like an ordinary craft, not much different from other ships humans had built in recent decades. But as the observers drew closer, they noticed details that made them pause. The surface of the ship seemed alive, small lines shifting and repairing themselves as if the vessel carried its own breath. Inside, the surprises grew greater. The corridors were clean and bright, but instead of rare metals or crystals that most civilizations used, the humans had built their systems with materials that seemed common. Yet the way they were shaped and combined showed a depth of thought that was anything but common. The engines pulsed with energy, bending space with a rhythm that matched no known design. Lauren of the Veil studied the walls with careful eyes. They built this with iron, steel, and composites, he whispered to himself. No rare cores, no sacred crystals. And yet it works. It works better than anything we thought possible at their level. The others agreed. Saran asked Commander Daniel how the humans had reached such progress. His answer was simple and honest. We just kept trying. We tested one design, it failed. We tested another, it failed again. We did not stop. Every failure gave us something to learn. Piece by piece, we built something that worked. The observers shared looks of disbelief. For their civilizations, progress required long councils, strict permissions, and endless debate before new ideas could be tested. Humans, it seemed, had skipped all that. They were not afraid of failure, and that made them faster. As they moved deeper into the horizon, the observers reached the heart of the ship, the engine core. It glowed with shifting light, a controlled storm of power. The design was unfamiliar, yet elegant in its own way. Instead of one massive engine, the humans had used dozens of smaller ones, linked together with simple lines of energy flow. The system was flexible, able to adapt if one part failed. This is their strength, Saran said quietly. Not perfection, but adaptability. They build for change, not for permanence. It is dangerous, but also powerful. The tour ended with the humans offering the observers a simple meal in the mess hall. The food was plain, but the humans shared it freely, laughing and speaking with ease. They asked about other worlds, other stars, and showed no sign that they understood the storm their creation had caused in the council. To them, the horizon was only a step forward, nothing more. When the observers returned to their own ship that night, their thoughts were heavy. They had come expecting to find stolen knowledge, hidden relics, or some ancient secret that humans had uncovered. Instead, they had found determination, creativity, and a way of thinking that no council had ever taught. Saran recorded her final words in the log. The humans have not broken any law. They have not stolen, nor cheated. They have simply moved faster than any of us thought possible. If this is what they can do in 1 century, then we must prepare ourselves for what they will do in the next. As the observer's ship left orbit, the horizon shone behind them, silent and steady in the light of the sun. The humans on board carried on with their work, unaware that across the galaxy, leaders whispered in alarm, and old empires began to fear the future. The council hall filled once again, brighter and louder than before. The observers had returned from Earth with their reports, and now every leader in the Orion sector wanted answers. From the lowest envoy to the highest elder, the chamber was alive with tension. The horizon was no rumor anymore. It was real, it was powerful, and it was built by humans without help from any ancient race. Elder Marek stood at the center platform. His heavy staff rested beside him as his voice echoed across the dome. The observers have spoken. The humans have not stolen, borrowed, or found forgotten relics. Their ship is the result of their own effort. It uses common materials. It uses ideas they discovered for themselves. Delegates, we must decide what this means for us. At once, voices rose from every side. The scaled Kelton envoy slammed his clawed hand on the railing. This means danger. A young race should not move this fast. If they keep advancing without control, they will disturb the balance we have kept for thousands of years. The humans must be restricted before they upset the order. The Oran speaker, calm and slender, shook her head. Her voice was soft, yet carried across the hall with steady weight. No. We should not fear them. We should learn from them. Their progress comes from courage and persistence. Perhaps it is time the council itself remembered those values. Fear will only lead to conflict. Another delegate, Viral of the Tuur, leaned forward with sharp eyes. Do not be blinded by their smiles. Humans are ambitious. Today they build ships. Tomorrow they may claim stars. Will we wait until they stand at our gates with fleets that outnumber our own? The words sent a ripple of unease through the chamber. Some delegates nodded in agreement, others muttered in disapproval. Saran, the observer from the Solari, stepped forward. She was not a delegate but had been invited to speak. Her calm voice cut through the noise. I saw their ship. I walked their halls. They have done nothing wrong. They are not preparing for conquest. They are preparing for survival and exploration. They do not think as we do. They do not wait for approval. That is their strength. Her words silenced many, but not all. The Kelton envoy rose again, anger flashing in his golden eyes. Strength unchecked is weakness for the rest of us. If they rise too quickly, they may crush us without even trying. I call for sanction. No trade, no support, no access to council knowledge. Let them be slowed before they outpace us all. A wave of voices shouted both for and against the idea. The hall turned into a storm of sound. Elder Marek raised his staff and struck the floor until the chamber grew quiet again. You speak of fear, Marek said slowly, and fear may blind us. But ignoring danger is also unwise. We must seek balance. What shall we do with a species that runs where others have walked slowly for ages? From the back, an older delegate named Harun of the Shali spoke for the first time. His voice was deep and worn by time. Perhaps we should look not at their ship, but at ourselves. For centuries we have followed tradition. We have told each other what can and cannot be done. We have waited, argued, and stalled. The humans have shown us that progress does not need permission. That frightens us, because it reminds us of what we lost long ago. The hall grew silent at his words. Even those who feared humans paused to listen. The orange speaker added softly, then perhaps the question is not whether humans move too fast. Perhaps the question is whether we have moved too slowly. The thought spread through the chamber like a quiet wave. Delegates looked at one another, uncertain. For so long the council had believed its way was the only way. Now a young species had broken those rules without meaning to, and the galaxy had no answer. Elder Marek lifted his staff once more. We cannot decide this matter today. But we must watch them closely. The humans may be a danger, or they may be a gift. Either way, their path will shape the galaxy. I propose continued observation, but also discussion of new rules. Let this council not fall into fear, nor into blind trust. The motion was accepted, though uneasily. Some wanted stronger measures, others wanted friendship, but no clear choice could be made. The debate had revealed not just concern about humans, but cracks within the council itself. Old alliances seemed weaker. Old certainties seemed fragile. As the delegates left the hall, whispers filled the air. Some spoke of humans as the rising flame that would light the galaxy. Others spoke of them as a storm that would sweep away all order. Far from the council, on the deck of the Horizon, the human crew continued their work with quiet pride. They did not know their ship had shaken the galaxy. To them, it was just the result of teamwork, effort, and the courage to try. But to the council, it had become a mirror, showing both fear and hope in equal measure. The council had argued for weeks, but no clear decision was made. Fear and hope pulled them in different directions. To ease the growing tension, Elder Marek ordered the observers to study the humans more closely, not just their ship but their methods, their culture, and the way they solved problems. If the Horizon was truly a creation of human effort, then there had to be a reason why they moved so quickly while other species advanced so slowly. Saran of the Solari returned to Earth with her fellow observers. This time, they did not ask to see only the Horizon. Instead, they visited workshops, training halls, and research stations where ordinary humans worked. What they discovered was something none of them had expected. In a workshop on a small lunar base, they saw a group of young engineers testing a strange engine prototype. The design was unstable, and the test ended in sparks and smoke. The observers assumed the humans would stop, file a report, and wait for higher approval. But the humans simply laughed, adjusted a few wires, and started again. They fail, whispered Lauren of the Veil, watching with astonishment, and they are not ashamed. The lead engineer noticed their surprise and explained with a smile. Failure is just part of the path. Each time we fail, we learn something new. Every mistake is a step forward. The word stayed with the observers. In their own civilizations, failure was feared. A failed experiment often meant punishment, loss of honor, or even exile. No one dared to try without perfect certainty. But humans seemed to see failure not as shame, but as progress. At an academy in orbit, the observers met students who were already designing ships of their own. They worked in teams, arguing, sketching, and testing ideas with raw energy. None of them waited for orders from elders or leaders. They moved quickly, and when their teachers guided them, it was with encouragement rather than strict control. This is their secret, Saran thought. They are free to try. They are free to make mistakes. They are free to change. That is why they move so fast. The observers recorded everything, sending reports back to the council. Still, many leaders refused to believe that such a simple difference could create such progress. They demanded proof that the spirit of trial and error could truly shape something as advanced as the Horizon. To answer them, Commander Daniel of the human fleet invited the observers to watch the building of the next prototype ship. This vessel, smaller than the Horizon, was still under construction at a massive dockyard orbiting Mars. The observers watched as teams of workers and scientists argued, experimented, and built side by side. Mistakes happened often. Panels failed, systems broke down, and calculations had to be redone. Yet instead of halting the project for endless meetings, the humans solved problems as they appeared. One failure led to two solutions. A broken design led to an improvement. Slowly, the ship began to take shape. Lauren shook his head in disbelief. They do not fear chaos. They use it. They grow from it. Saran agreed. This is what the council never understood. Our people wait until all is certain before we act. But certainty is slow. The humans choose action first, and certainty comes later. That is why they rise so quickly. When the prototype finally launched, it was not perfect. It shook during flight, and its systems struggled at first. But the humans cheered as if it were the greatest success. For them, it was not the end but the beginning of another round of progress. That night, as the observers prepared their reports, they realized the truth. The Horizon was not a miracle ship. It was not stolen knowledge or hidden power. It was simply the result of endless attempts, countless failures, and the will to keep moving forward. Saran wrote her final line with care. The secret of the humans is not in their materials or their machines. It is in their spirit. They are not afraid of failure, and that makes them unstoppable. Back in the Orion sector, the council read these words in silence. Some delegates were unsettled, others inspired. For the first time, they saw that the real danger was not the Horizon itself, but the way humans thought. If such thinking spread, it could change the galaxy forever. The council of the Orion sector was still unsettled. The observers had returned with reports, showing humans were not cheating or stealing. They were simply fast, creative, and unafraid to try. But many leaders still feared the consequences of a young species moving so quickly. It was time to test humans in a controlled way. Elder Marek called a meeting with the council's most trusted leaders. We must understand the limits of humans, he said. If they are truly as capable as they appear, we must see it ourselves. I propose a challenge. A trial of skill and engineering. Let the humans build a ship capable of surviving in the uncharted void beyond our maps. The room erupted into voices. The Kelton delegate bared his claws. This is their opportunity to fail. Let them try and fall. Then we will see their true limits. The Oran speaker raised her hand. No. This is not a trap. Let them succeed, and we learn. Let them fail, and we see what they must learn next. Either way, knowledge will guide us. After hours of debate, a decision was made. The challenge was sent to the humans as a formal request. It was framed as a test of cooperation between species. The humans received it with curiosity rather than fear. Commander Daniel gathered his crew and read the challenge aloud. We are to build a ship that can survive the uncharted void, he said. It must travel far, adapt to unknown hazards, and support its crew for long periods. This is not a small task, but we can do it. The human engineers immediately began planning. Unlike other civilizations, they did not call for years of meetings or council approval. Instead, they drew sketches, ran small simulations, and tested ideas quickly. Each design was examined, tried, and sometimes discarded, but every failure brought new understanding. The observers returned to watch the process. They had seen human ingenuity before, but this was different. The humans were not only building a ship, they were learning how to think as a team under pressure. Problems arose constantly. A reactor misfired. The hull material was not strong enough. A navigation algorithm failed repeatedly. Each time, the humans discussed solutions, tried new approaches, and moved forward. This is astonishing, Lauren of the Veil said quietly. No council, no approvals, just ideas, tests, and action. Their ship grows with every mistake, and each solution is better than the last. The human crew also showed a remarkable ability to work together. Conflicts happened, of course, but disagreements were not punished. Instead, they led to improvements. Engineers argued about engine layouts, pilots debated navigation, and scientists suggested experiments to make the ship safer. Slowly, the new vessel began to take shape. Days turned into weeks, and the ship, named Venture, neared completion. It was smaller than the Horizon but no less impressive. Its hull was lightweight yet strong, its engines flexible, and its systems capable of repairing themselves if damaged. Everything was designed to adapt to the unknown. Finally, the launch day arrived. Observers from the Council and human leaders gathered to see the result. The Venture lifted off from its platform, engines glowing, and moved into orbit. At first, there were small problems. Minor systems failed and alarms sounded. But the humans reacted quickly. Repairs were made in minutes, adjustments were done on the fly, and the ship stabilized. The observers watched in awe. This was more than a test of technology. It was a test of human spirit. Where other species might have delayed, stopped, or waited for guidance, humans acted. They adapted. They improved. They learned. After several hours of observation, the Venture began its journey into uncharted space. It moved steadily, responding to hazards the observers could not have predicted. The Council's representatives noted that the humans were not reckless. They were cautious but bold, combining daring with careful thought. Back on Earth, Commander Daniel and his crew celebrated quietly. They did not boast, because for them, this was only one step in many. Every failure had taught them something. Every problem had given them knowledge. The Council would see the ship, but humans already knew the truth: progress came from trying, learning, and never giving up. As the observers prepared to return with their report, Saran of the Solari spoke softly to Lauren. This trial shows something the Council must understand. The humans do not move like us. They do not wait for certainty. They act, and certainty follows. That is why they are dangerous, and why they are remarkable. Lauren nodded. It is true. They are not limited by tradition or fear. They will continue to grow, and the galaxy will have to change along with them. The Venture disappeared into the dark void, engines steady, systems adaptive, and humans at the helm confident. Across the galaxy, the Council would soon debate again, but the outcome of the challenge was clear. The humans had shown that their strength was not only in their technology, but in their determination, creativity, and courage. The Council of the Orion sector waited anxiously as the Venture moved deeper into uncharted space. Messages from the observers arrived slowly, but every update carried the same sense of awe. The humans were succeeding where other civilizations would have hesitated. They adapted to unknown hazards, repaired failures, and continued without fear. It was clear that the humans were not only capable but extraordinary in ways the galaxy had never seen before. Elder Marek convened a special session to review the latest reports. Delegates from every corner of the council hall gathered, their faces a mixture of curiosity, fear, and disbelief. Saran of the Solari, who had observed the Venture closely, addressed the assembly. "The humans are not relying on ancient knowledge or powerful relics," she said. "They do not follow our traditions or wait for approval from elders. Instead, they act, they learn, and they improve. Their progress comes from persistence, cooperation, and courage. They adapt faster than any species we have studied." The chamber fell silent. Even the Kelton envoy, usually so quick to anger, seemed to pause and listen. "What do you mean by adapt faster?" asked Veril of the Tuur, leaning forward with a sharp glare. "Every species adapts eventually. How is this different?" Saran raised her hands calmly. "Observe what we have seen. When a problem occurs on a human ship, they do not stop. They analyze, try a solution, fail if necessary, and try again. Each failure teaches them something new. By the time a traditional species even finishes planning, Humans have already tested 3 different solutions. They grow stronger with each challenge. The council murmured among themselves. Some were impressed, some worried, and others did not yet believe. Lauren of the Vale, who had accompanied Saran closely, added his perspective. This is why their horizon and the venture exist. They are not miracles. They are the product of countless attempts, shared ideas, and a refusal to fear failure. Humans do not rely on rules or history to guide them. They rely on creativity and determination. The words hung in the hall. Delegates exchanged uneasy looks. For centuries, the galaxy had relied on control, permission, and caution. Humans were breaking all those rules, not with rebellion, but with ingenuity and perseverance. The Kelton envoy spoke again, voice low and cautious. If they continue at this pace, they will surpass all our fleets, all our technologies. They will rewrite the balance of power. This is dangerous. The Oran speaker shook her head. Danger is only one way to see it. Humans are showing a new path. They are teaching us that fear of failure is what limits us. Perhaps we should learn from them instead of trying to stop them. Saran nodded. That is the revelation. The humans' greatest strength is not their machines, not their engines, not their shields. It is their spirit. Their courage to act, to test, and to keep going. That is why the horizon astonished the galaxy, and that is why the venture thrives in the unknown. The chamber was quiet for a long moment. Some delegates looked thoughtful. Others looked worried. But everyone realized the same truth: humans had changed the rules simply by living differently. Elder Marek spoke at last. We have watched carefully. We have studied their methods. We have seen what humans can achieve when left to act freely. The galaxy must acknowledge that a new kind of strength has arrived. One not measured by power alone, but by the willingness to try, to learn, and to grow. Even the most fearful delegates could not deny the evidence. Reports from the observers showed humans solving problems that would have taken older civilizations decades to understand. Their ships adapted to conditions no one predicted, and their crews worked with teamwork and intelligence that no council had created. Across the galaxy, news of the venture's success spread quickly. Some species whispered fearfully about a rising human dominance. Others saw hope, imagining what might be possible if humans shared their ideas. The revelation was clear: humans were not a threat because of weapons or numbers. They were a force because of their ingenuity, persistence, and courage. Back on the venture, the human crew continued their work. To them, it was just another step in their mission. They did not boast, nor did they seek approval. Every adjustment, every test, and every success was simply part of their path forward. They did not yet realize that their courage had become a revelation for an entire galaxy. Elder Marek looked out from the council chamber and sighed. The galaxy had entered a new era. The humans had not broken the rules. They had rewritten them. And every civilization, whether willing or not, would now have to learn to live with this truth. The Council of the Orion Sector met one last time to discuss the humans. After months of reports, debates, and observations, the conclusion was unavoidable. Humans were no ordinary species. They had shown a strength that came not from ancient technology, political influence, or secret knowledge. Their strength came from their courage, creativity, and persistence. The galaxy could no longer underestimate them. Elder Marek rose at the center of the chamber. His staff tapped lightly on the polished floor. Delegates, he said, we have seen what humans can do when left to act freely. Their ships survive in uncharted space. Their crews solve problems no other species could. They advance faster than any civilization in our history. We cannot ignore this. The humans have arrived, and the galaxy must recognize them not as children of the stars, but as equals and innovators. Murmurs filled the hall. Some delegates were still cautious, but even the most fearful could not deny the facts. Humans had proven themselves beyond what anyone had imagined. Saran of the Solari stepped forward. She had watched the venture and the horizon with awe. The humans are not a threat because they are violent. They are a threat only because they are unstoppable in their own way. They try, they fail, they learn, and they improve. That is why the horizon amazed the galaxy, and why the venture survives in unknown space. Their power is not in their weapons, but in their spirit. The Kelton envoy, who had opposed humans from the start, lowered his claws and nodded reluctantly. They have changed the rules, he admitted. We feared a storm, but perhaps it is a new wind. One we must learn to navigate, rather than resist. The Oran speaker smiled softly. Indeed. Humans have reminded us that progress comes from courage, not control. From creativity, not permission. This is a lesson the galaxy needed. Across the council hall, delegates whispered to each other. Some began to discuss cooperation with humans, imagining what new discoveries could be made by working together. Others debated how to adjust their own policies to avoid falling behind. The galaxy had no choice but to change. Meanwhile, far from the council, the humans continued their mission. Commander Daniel watched the stars from the deck of the Venture. His crew moved with quiet efficiency, fixing small problems, testing new systems, and preparing for the long journey ahead. They did not know that their courage had caused fear, admiration, and hope across countless worlds. A young engineer named Myra approached him. Commander, the new shield design is complete. It can adapt to energy surges and repair itself if damaged. Daniel smiled. Good work, Myra. That will help us explore farther than ever before. Another crew member added, the council has been watching us. They are surprised at how quickly we learn. Daniel laughed softly. Let them watch. We are not building this for approval. We are building this to explore, to learn, and to survive. Everything else will follow naturally. Back in the Orion sector, Elder Merrick finalized a message to the council. It was a recommendation for a new era of cooperation and understanding. Humans could no longer be treated as a minor species. They would be welcomed as partners, with caution and respect. The galaxy had learned a lesson in humility and possibility. The message read in part, humans are not bound by the same fears and traditions that limit other species. They will continue to rise, not through conquest, but through ingenuity, teamwork, and courage. The galaxy must adapt, or risk being left behind. The council chambers fell silent. Even the oldest delegates understood that a turning point had arrived. The age of rigid control was ending. The age of creativity, adaptability, and courage had begun. Back on the Venture, the humans looked toward the stars with hope and determination. They did not seek to dominate or conquer. They sought only to explore, to build, and to understand. Yet their actions had already rewritten the galaxy's expectations. They were no longer children learning to walk. They were pioneers, innovators, and examples of what could be achieved when fear was set aside. Commander Daniel addressed his crew one last time before entering a new sector of uncharted space. Remember this, he said. Our strength is not just in our ships. It is in our will, our teamwork, and our courage. Keep learning, keep building, and keep trying. That is how we will face the unknown. The Venture moved forward, engines steady, systems adaptive, and humans ready for whatever lay beyond the stars. Across the galaxy, leaders, observers, and scientists watched with a mixture of wonder and humility. The humans had proven themselves, not through force, but through spirit. The galaxy had changed forever, and a new dawn had begun.